Before this video begins, I feel the need to make a disclaimer. This is a joke. I'm not being serious in any of this, and I will explain why this is a joke at the end of the video. If at any point you are uncomfortable, I will leave the timestamp of when I explain why this is what it is, and you can feel free to go there and see my explanation. But I do want to put it out there that this is entirely a joke, just because I know people are going to probably view me a little differently because of this video. So let's get the video started. Hey guys, so today I thought I would bring you something a little different. I don't really do a lot of reading experiments or book reviews on this channel. That was something I did a really long time ago and I just kind of outgrew that. I have since gone to my blog for most of my reviews and wrap-ups, but today is a special occasion. While I was on a writing stream for NaNoWriMo, I came across this book by a really prolific author that I am really surprised I haven't heard of until now. He has made huge waves in the industry and I am a little appalled at myself for having not read his work sooner. So of course, I am talking about Wolfe Stiffley. If you don't know him for some reason, I don't know how you haven't heard of his amazing novel. I will insert the cover over here because literally this has been everywhere online, and if you haven't heard of Love Comes in Three, what are you doing? You have been under the same rock I've been under. So today I thought I would do something a little different, and I wanted to actually read and review his book because I've heard amazing things about it, and I actually got to see him during a live stream that I was part of. He was there, he participated, and I thought it was so wonderful for him to come in and talk to people who were aspiring novelists, especially when he had such a huge piece of work out there. So I went online, I went to Amazon, I signed up for Kindle Unlimited, and I downloaded the book because I really want to read it and want to see how this changes me as a reader and as a writer. Now, I do have to make the disclaimer that erotica is not a genre I tend to read in, so I might not be as well informed or educated on some of the tropes, on some of the language that is being used in the book, but I will try my best to give you guys a thorough review, especially because I want to do this justice. To take you guys through this whole experience with me, I am going to be doing a reading vlog and taking you on the journey of my feelings as I read the book. It's short, but I've heard that it's amazing for a short book. So I will be taking you on that journey, and then I will be giving you my full in-depth thoughts about everything. I will be going through all of the tropes that he used. I will be looking at the characters. I will be looking at how he's commenting on society, because the premise of the whole book is about The Bachelor, and I think that Wolfe really hit on something really, really important about what it means to be part of an industry that is so geared towards creating love for a wider audience and also wanting to feel that love. But is that even possible? Is it entirely manufactured? How do you love someone who's so different from you, someone who you connect with, but also you connect with other people? So like, do you actually just love everyone? Do you love no one? How does that actually reflect on the character? And what does that mean for us as consumers, as readers of a marketplace that's so geared towards feeding our love of love? So we're just gonna move over to my bed and I will start reading this book. Okay, I hope you guys have a good enough view of me. I know I'm a little cut off up here, but it's the best I can do with a really bad tripod. So I have my iPad ready. I am going to be reading it here. You can find this book on the Kindle app. It's really not that expensive. Even if you wanted to buy it, it's 99 cents. Because I signed up for Kindle Unlimited, I got it for free. So I will be reading it. I'm really excited. I have this ready. I have tea ready in case I need to spill it. And yeah, I can't wait to get into reading this book. I think it's going to be an amazing experience. Okay, I seem to be having some technical problems, but I'm going to try and figure this out, and then I will get back to you guys once I actually have the book ready to read. Okay, so after some technical difficulty, I actually couldn't read it on my iPad for some reason, so I have it pulled up on my phone. It's right here, and it's really short, like I said. It's only 15 pages, but I think I've heard good things about this, and I think it can do what is intended. And obviously, this being an erotica, I think reading this in bed is the best decision I could make because, you know, erotica is supposed to make you feel certain things, and I think if this is as good as I think it will be, it'll achieve that. So I'm going to get to reading. It's going to be a little awkward to read on my phone. I haven't done that in a long time, but I'm excited to dive into this book. Okay, it's only been a few minutes into this, and I already want to point out that I really enjoy the representation that's in this book. Wolfe Stifley does a lot of amazing things to include a variety of people in his novel, obviously, because American consumerism, the main character, the main guy, is a white man with blonde hair and most likely blue eyes. We haven't actually gotten to his eye color yet, but I'm assuming he probably has blue eyes. But there's so much inclusivity in this that one of his characters isn't even human as far as I can tell right now. I'm pretty sure from the description it does say she's a velociraptor, and I think that's really amazing to reach a wider audience of people, of, you know, dinosaurs who have managed to survive into this era and who are hiding. I think they appreciate having this representation because you don't often see dinosaurs portrayed in a very positive light. I'm going to go back to reading because I'm very interested in how this is going to work out so far, but I just want to make a really quick note about the representation in the story. Okay, another note I wanted to make on this is how many tropes that this book is incorporating. So normally I would say that if an author includes more than one romance trope, especially like a stereotypical one, it would be really hard to get into it because there's too many combative elements. But this, we already have the representation of non-human creatures and just that love, that bond that two people share when they really get to know each other, and especially during something as intimate as The Bachelor, you really get to see someone's true colors. And I think this holds a very powerful message for a lot of people, that the camera does see everything, but it also sees the beautiful things as well as the less beautiful things. And I can understand why the main character, Irving, is having a hard time picking these women. And obviously there's going to be some tension because one of the final 3 contestants is actually a human, and you're going to be drawn to people that you know who are like you. So I think it's interesting to see how the author is challenging us to go out of our comfort zones. Is it a matter of sticking with what you're familiar with, aka a human lover, or is it something that you are pushing yourself to discover that's new, that you wouldn't have done otherwise because it would maybe make you uncomfortable? I think the thematic elements are incredibly important to understand in this book before you read it, because it does give you a lot to think about. So something I wanted to point out really quickly, I know I keep pausing this reading to like talk about stuff, but I think that's kind of one of the things, like a good book will make you think of stuff like that. Like I said before, this book has amazing representation, and I think particularly for this last contestant, it says a lot to include a female character who doesn't really look like a traditional woman would. You know, society has told us for a long time that hair on a woman's body is not to be desired, and that in order to be beautiful we should remove it, and that's where you have razors and waxing and, you know, lasering off hair, and a lot of women do that, and honestly, myself included, because it's such a societal thing. Men see women with hair or with more hair than they have, and it's a turnoff. And I think it's incredibly brave of Wolfe Stifley to include a woman who is hairier, perhaps, than the traditional woman in modern society would be. It's a very big comment on societal pressure and the choice to not conform. And obviously there's a lot more we can unpack after I'm done reading this, but I think it's a great thing to note. Wolfe Stifley has taken into consideration the woman's point of view in all of this, and the role that women are forced into because of society, and especially in something like a reality show, it's hard to be a woman in any capacity, and I think he's doing an amazing job here of really delving into things that we don't like to talk about in most kinds of literature. Wow. Okay. I was not expecting that ending, obviously, as you can tell from my reaction. Oh, wow. I think I'm even red from like how exciting that ending was, but let's talk about this. Okay, so I just finished the book and wow, that was quite the experience. Obviously you saw from my reactions that the end took me completely by surprise. I thought I had an idea of how this was gonna go and I was completely wrong. I honestly did not see that plot twist coming at all, and wow, I think it's a huge commendable effort to Wolfe Stifley that he was able to, in only, according to Kindle, there were only 15 actual pages, but it felt so powerful. And the fact that he was able to bring in such a twist in the matter of basically a page at the end, I think is amazing, because the worry with short books is that nothing's going to take you by surprise, that you're going to be able to see everything coming, and that you're never going to have that kind of twist that you would get in the build-up of a longer book. With longer form fiction, you can always see a growth and an arc of a story and the tension that you feel. But with this, I think it's really amazing to see how much he was able to throw into the end, especially with only a single page left. That, I think, is something that most authors aren't able to do, and yet Wolfe Stifley did it beautifully in the story. And I guess this is the point where I realize I haven't really told you guys what the book is about. This book is about the last episode of The Bachelor. We have our main character Irving, who is the bachelor on this, and he has to decide who to give his final rose to. He has 3 women left. He has Kali, the best friend that he grew up with, who he probably was attracted to at some point, but never expressed that attraction, and it turns out she's been in love with him this entire time. And I'm a sucker for a good, like, friends to lovers story, so I appreciated that being thrown in there, because I think it's a trope that we see often, but we don't see it executed as well as this book does it. And we have Rash the Velociraptor, who is looking for love, something that's more sustainable than what she's experienced. You know, living as long as she's 83 million years old. You see a lot of things, and love isn't always as sustainable when you outlive the people you love. So having her there as a contestant, I think, was a very brave thing for her to go on national television and to declare that she was on this journey to have and find love despite everything else that was happening, and despite the fact that she's so different and she's lived well beyond her years in terms of everyone else. It's hard to find someone who's mature enough to understand you in that capacity. And then we have Bruce, the daughter of Bigfoot, and you know, there's always stuff about dealing with fame, and when you have a famous parent and you're not famous yourself, that puts a lot of pressure on you. But also, your only recognition in life is being associated with that famous parent, and Bruce's desire to make a name for herself, I think, is something that a lot of people can relate to. I think a lot of people have this innate sense of wanting to make something of themselves. You don't always quite feel it in the same way that Bruce would, but it's easy for us as readers to understand what it's like to crave something that is purely our own, something that we know we achieved, that has nothing to do with other people in our family or schools that we're associated with or sports or anything like that, something that is truly and solely ours. Now, obviously, you can tell why I say the representation in this is amazing. We have so many different kinds of things. We have a velociraptor, we have Bruce, a Sasquatch, and even the cameraman, I think, was mentioned to be an orc, and you really don't see this kind of modern representation much, which I think is a lot of what publishing struggles with, traditional publishing in that sense. You don't see traditional publishing putting stuff out like that. You don't see people talking about stuff like that because it's uncomfortable, and I think that's where non-traditional publishing, self-publishing like this, really is able to build an audience of people who relate to stuff like that. Like, traditional publishing has excluded a whole world of furries and scalies just because normal people don't understand it, and I think that's incredibly unfair. I am not a member of the community myself, but I think it's incredibly unfair to alienate a whole group of people just because it might not do well. Self-publishing, on the other hand, like Wolfe Stifley has done, has been a wonderful, wonderful eye-opening experience for people to be able to find other people who relate to them and who are like them, who have these attractions and who identify that way. I think that's a really beautiful experience that we can't ignore. And like I already mentioned, Bruce being the daughter of Bigfoot, she herself is a Sasquatch, and she is, as I mentioned in an earlier clip, that hairier woman that I talked about. It's so bold of her to not conform. It's so bold of her to live as she is, to embrace who she is so fully. It's hard to imagine a Sasquatch being able to live life comfortably in the world. Obviously, she's tall, she is strong, and there's something that men innately fear about women who are taller and stronger than they are. And I think it's commendable that Irving saw past all of that and fell in love with her because of the experiences she brought him on, because she pushed him to really try new things. She encouraged him to be a better version of himself. And that's why ultimately he fell in love with her, and I could feel the beauty of their love story. Now, obviously, I didn't get to go on their full journey with them, but I could sense the connection that they had because it was so palpable in every one of their interactions. You could see the bond they had created because of these things that they were doing together. And at the end of the book, I honestly found myself rooting for her more than any of the other characters. And okay, representation aside, because that is an important thing, I think it's also a really big thing to talk about how erotica, when it's written by men, usually is in the service of men. You don't hear them talking about how much they want to pleasure a woman. It's always about the men getting off, and it's always about how much a man can do. But one thing I really liked about this book was that the sex scenes were very female focused. Irving did a really great job of wanting to please his partners, and you could tell that because he made the effort to understand what each woman enjoyed and to cater to their preferences as well. Obviously, that's not going to be the same for each of the women, but he really did his best to make an effort in doing something that they would feel comfortable with, in making sure that they were also finding pleasure, because arguably it's a lot harder for a woman to find pleasure in circumstances like this, and yet him as a man was not the stereotypical man. He actually really wanted to please his partners and to make sure that they were enjoying themselves as much as he was enjoying himself. So I think that's really commendable, and honestly, props to the author for knowing female anatomy, because I feel like that's another problem that you have a lot in erotica that's written by men. A lot of men don't actually understand the female body well enough to write stuff like this, and you'll hear them talking about random weird things. And that's not how the female body works, but this author, Wolfie Seiffele, really did his research, and you can tell that he's probably drawn from personal experiences with how he understands the female body and what it takes to pleasure a woman. And I think that's really important with literature like this, especially in erotica, that it's not always just about the sex. It can be about pleasure too, and I think that's such an important thing to note for male authors, because I don't think that's something they understand often enough. They frequently just objectify women because that's all women are to them, something to look at, something that's pretty, something to get off to. Very few male authors actually take the time to develop their female characters and to give them this much dimension, and also to allow them to have the same pleasure that the male characters are having. So I think that's something that I really, really enjoyed about the story, and I would love to see more of Wolfie Seiffele's work in the future, and how he challenges men to focus more on their partners and to not have it always be about themselves. The writing style is also really, really wonderful. I think does a good job of getting to the point of the story. Obviously, with only 15 pages, you need to move pretty quickly, but I never felt like the pacing was rushed. I never felt like it dragged. Everything felt really great. Everything felt perfectly paced. There was nothing I could have asked for differently. I think maybe I noticed a typo in there, but that's not uncommon with ebooks and with self-publishing. Usually there's a couple of typos, but the fact that I only noticed one, I think is a great thing. Like, most writers aren't that good. I don't think he had an editor, but to only have one typo is amazing. So I think that this writing is definitely going to stick with me for a long time. I feel like the story in general is going to stay with me because it's impacted my life in such a huge way. As someone who's not a normal reader of erotica, I've never thought about it through such a deep lens. I've never thought about it in terms of commentary on the world and commentary on myself as a woman, and even my consumption of the genre of erotica. The choice to use the setting of The Bachelor to base this whole book around is such a call out for people who have enjoyed the franchise and for people who have spent so much of their lives watching other people fall in love in the hopes of experiencing that themselves. I think it's a beautifully clever way to talk about something that's this deep and this wide across the world, because so many people watch stuff like this. You have all different kinds of love reality shows, and you never really stop to think about what that means for you as a consumer, and you never really think about what it is for the contestants and what it means for them to put themselves out there to find this kind of love. And obviously, I think reality shows like this should have more representation. Why not have a dinosaur? Why not have a Sasquatch? It's completely unfair to expect people to only find love with other humans. I think there should be more representation and inclusivity because it's 2020. We're in an era of change. We're in an era of acceptance. Shouldn't we be past this? Shouldn't we have evolved to the point where it doesn't matter if you have 2 legs or 4, if you have hair all over your body, if you have yellow glowing eyes and claws and scales? Like, does it really matter? Isn't what matters really what's in your heart and who you are as a person? I think the book did a great job on talking about all these topics, and obviously I could go on for much longer about all of this. I think there's so much to unpack in the story, but I do think it's a book that everyone should pick up. I think you should read it for yourself to see what you can get out of it and see how this makes you reflect on your own opinions of love and acceptance and what it means to be different and what it means to be a consumer of media pushing love and pushing reality shows on you all the time. I think those are very important qualities to assess about yourself, and so I would highly encourage everyone to pick this up. I think everyone could really enjoy this and get something wonderful out of it. So I will link it in the description down below if you want to read it for yourself. I've talked way too much about this, but I do think it's a book that everyone should pick up, and I'm honestly so glad that I made the time to sit down and read this, because I will never be able to look at literature, especially erotica, in any other way ever. So I'm giving this 5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend it. Go pick it up and you'll understand what I mean. I really do think you will see the impact this book has and how this will hopefully revolutionize the way that literature is written, especially in the erotica genre. I really think that this is the first step to something better and to something different. So I'm going to end this here, and I hope you guys all enjoyed watching my review of this. I really hope that you enjoy the book, and thank you to Wolfie Stifley for writing this masterpiece that I will never be able to forget. Okay, so now that that horror show is over, here's my explanation. Today, November 17th, during Cam's live stream, he was talking about something and someone brought up his erotic novel that he wrote. It is a genre erotic novel. It's called Bizarro Erotica, and it's a real thing that exists. It's like those books like what's out there now called Falling in Love with Corona or something like that. It's basically that kind of weird stuff. And Cam wrote one as a joke as part of a video, which I will link in the description down below and probably also in a card if I can do that. But basically he did this whole thing, but we were talking about it during a stream, and basically a bunch of us started joking that we would actually review this seriously and put a lot of thought into talking about all the thematic elements of the book and to give it a serious, honest review as you would pretty much any other kind of book. And I was one of those people who was joking about that, and here I am having created this monstrosity that I really hope this doesn't gain much traction, because that would be really embarrassing, and I don't know what I would do if that's what I became known for. But anyways, I had a lot of fun actually making this video. My cheeks are flushed because of how much time I spent laughing over this and how I had to take myself so seriously while reviewing this. It literally, like, you could take this flush and spin it in a multitude of bad ways right now, but I assure you, nothing about that book was actually sexy. I've never really made satirical videos like this before, so I think it's interesting that I got the chance to do it with this, and thank you, Cam, for giving me free reign to do this and for putting this out into the world, I guess. I don't know if you have made my life better or made it worse because I have now read this wonderful piece of work. I don't think I will ever do anything like this ever again, unless it's a joke. I feel like I couldn't handle it if I did this again, ever, even as a joke. But this one time I did it, I really did have a lot of fun. I thought it was very interesting to see what I came up with because I am surprised at how much I could BS out of the 15 pages that I read, and I'm so glad it was only 15 pages because I don't know what I would have done if it was any longer than that, if I had to read through a whole novel. So even though this is a different kind of video for me, thank you, Cam, for again letting me do this to you and your work. I hope I did it justice. I hope I was analytical enough. I hope you feel like the book actually gave me something substantial to think about. And to everyone else, I very, very sincerely apologize that you watched all of that, and I'm sorry at how much sense I was able to make out of the whole thing. That's it for this video. I will try to never do anything like this ever again because I don't want to scar you guys or chase you guys away, and hopefully to the friends and family maybe that are seeing this, you don't think too differently of me. I'm sorry, I really, really am. And I'll see you guys in the next video if you decide to stick around. Bye. Cam, what am I doing on your behalf? What am I doing? This is a very hard video to film, seriously, and I know I'm doing a strangely good job. I don't know why that is, but you asked for this. Cam, I can't believe the words dino pussy are in here. What have you done? Okay, I read further into that sentence. What have you done? Cam, am I supposed to not acknowledge the fact that this is actually kind of decently written?